Okay. Okay, we are starting. So I hope I've had a fruitful morning. Right, you started off with a technical session, then you had a creative section where you brainstormed, right, and came up with your ideas, hopefully, that you are going to present later. So now we're going to have another technical section. Unfortunately, it's right after lunch, so a lot of it will be hands-on, so hopefully you won't get sleepy. Then we'll have another high energy section where it's your chance to present. Right, okay, so let's get started. So in this section, so you have learned about HTML in the morning, right? So this section, what I would cover is Google App Engine, which is one way where you can get a server to actually serve those pages and right, for the client and server to talk together and to do things on the server. Okay, so HTML only does the display. If you want the server to do processing, request that, you can use various things, but the one we cover in this course is Google App Engine. It's probably one of the simplest. Okay, so we will we'll cover that, and no, all of you should be able to do this. But if you want to do something more advanced, that's up to you. Oh, okay. So that, do I have to stop and start again? Doing this one? This one, okay. Okay, good. Okay, so so the first thing that we are actually going to ask you to do, due in about 2 weeks' time, is now a sort of a prototype. In 2 weeks' time, we just want you to settle on your idea. Right? What you present today is not binding, right? It's your initial idea, but the one you will sort of, for the first sort of peer feedback or evaluation. I probably don't want to say it's binding, but if you change after that, it might be a bit harder. So in 2 weeks' time, we hope you will have some sort of prototype, hopefully. And there are various ways you might want to create the prototype. One simple way is to just use PowerPoint. I think most of you have PowerPoint or Keynote or something else. So let me show you a simple PowerPoint prototype. Where is that PowerPoint? Okay. Right. So yesterday, in the design thinking session, we were talking about sort of giving gifts, right? So what's a sort of simple app for giving gift? That maybe a simple app is sort of to sort of tell people what gift you might want, right? So that people can find out what gift you might want. So that's the gift book app that we will go through in this. So we have built this app in the Google App Engine section, but this is in PowerPoint, right? So maybe in the first 2 weeks, while you are learning all those technical things about Google App Engine and so on, right? You would be sort of trying to build a prototype at the same time. Do whatever you want to get your prototype up, but one simple way is use PowerPoint, and because PowerPoint provides you with links, right? So this is PowerPoint, and I can, just by using links, I can link to other web pages. Right? I can log in. This is what we're going to build later on. Okay, I can sort of put up my wish list. Right? I can type in sort of the whatever I want as wish list and as images, description. Then I can submit. Oh, submit doesn't work. Okay, I can delete it. I think delete works. This depends on the link that you put up in your prototype, right? I can search, right? I can. Right. So a prototype like this sort of gives you a good idea of what you want to do. Okay, so that might be the first thing you want to try to do. You can look at it. You can get some feedback on it. Okay, so I think that's roughly what the links I have put in. And I can log out as well. Okay, so that's simple to do. That might be the first thing you want to do in sort of generating your ideas so that you have a good idea what you want to build. Okay, so we are now going to try to build this in Google App Engine. Okay, so that's this section of the workshop. Google App Engine. This is what we are going to build, right? By the end of this tutorial, I think at least you will have sort of helped to build this app. Okay. So the outline, roughly installation, I hope you have already done it. Okay, overnight, yesterday. And of course, we start with a simple hello world. Okay, then I'll talk about using templates, using forms, and talk about the Google Data Store. Right, so that essentially would be this session. Okay, installation. Hopefully you have done it, but the Google App Engine also have a tutorial, so you might want to go through that tutorial on your own. Okay. So you should have installed Python 2.7. App Engine runs on Python 2.7. So that might have created some problems for some of you if you have some other version of Python, so you would have had to install 2.7, right, and get it to use 2.7. Okay, then you should have installed the Google App Engine. Okay, and if you haven't got this, get this file that contains everything in the directory I'm going to show you. Okay, and you can sort of follow along and do some of the things as we go along. Okay, so this one you should do. You should download this file and then unzip it somewhere, and you can work from there. Yep, hopefully. Do I need to give you time to do that? Hopefully I don't. Anyway, I'll give you a second. Okay, so let's move on to Hello World. Okay, so look if you unzip the file, you would see a directory called Hello World, and there is a file called helloworld.py, right, the Python file. Okay, this is what's inside the file. Okay, so you had a session on Python, so everything's in Python, right? So you had a session on Python yesterday. Hopefully it's sort of familiar. If you are not yet familiar with Python, I think you should still be able to follow along. Okay. So what are the things that we have here? We have import, right? So it imports the web application framework, which helps you to handle HTTP requests. So the World Wide Web run on the HTTP protocol, right? So, but luckily you don't need to know that much about it because there's an application framework that helps you to deal, right? So you just write simple code like this. Okay, you don't need to go lower level to HTTP. But you do need to import that. Okay, the next thing you have is the handler, right? So when a client, which is somebody else's computer, ask for a web page, let's say ask for the root directory, right? Your code is going to need to know how do I handle this request, right? That's what the handler does, right? So this this particular statement tells you that the handler, the routine that handles any request to /, which is the root directory, this main page. Okay, so whenever it sees a request for /, which is a root directory, it will ask this particular handler to deal with it. Right? And what does this particular handler deal with it? The main sort of, there are two main types of requests. It's either GET or POST. Hopefully you have seen that this morning when you did forms in HTML. In HTML forms, you normally would make a request. It's either a GET request or POST request, or most other requests to the servers are actually GET requests. Okay, So that's how the client will communicate with the server. Okay, so it must send a GET request, and if it sends a GET request to the root directory, it will get sent to this handler. The handler will handle the request, and in this case, all it does is it's going to write out hello world, right? Now write hello world. The header is a plain text file, write hello world. That's all this routine does. But the bigger picture, you probably can just get this working without knowing the bigger picture, but roughly the bigger picture is, right, the client will send a request, and if it's sent to the, so you will have other handlers here, right, and you will have code for other handlers around here as well. But if it sees a request for slash, it will send to main page. If it's a GET request, this is what the server will do. Okay, it will write out hello world. Okay, so Python's an object-oriented language, in case you should know that, right? So this is just inheritance, right? How does it get all these routines? Response, header, response, write. You did not write that yourself, right? It's from web app 2. So the class main page inherits from web app 2. That's how it gets this. Right, so you don't have to write all this. You just use it. You just use the write routine. You just use the header routine because it came from the web app 2 request handler. Right, so main page inherits from web app 2 request handler. Most of you, all of you, I think, have done object-oriented programming, so you know what inherits mean. You know where all this routine comes from. Right? It comes from web app 2. Okay. Okay, and this routine will handle the GET requests from the client. Later on, you will see routines for handling POST requests as well. These are the two main ones that you will use. Okay, so your first exercise is the trivial one, right? That you always do. You change the hello world message to something else. Okay, so where is it? If you look at the directory, so this is the directory. If you unzip it, this has all the material that I covered. Yes. Oh, okay. You missed the link. Yeah, if you don't have that, then you can't do this. So you should definitely get this. Okay, this one. If you don't have this, you can't follow the exercise. And if you haven't installed Google App Engine, again, you will have trouble following the exercises. So please do that as soon as you can. Like this one. So just unzip it anywhere and work from there. Okay, so the interface I will use for Google App Engine is the one for the Mac, obviously, since I'm using a Mac. I think the interface for Windows is the same. The interface for Linux, I'm not so sure. If you are using Linux, you might have to run command line, I think. Then you will have to be faster if you are using Linux. You will have to quickly look up the documentation yourself as we go along. Okay, but Windows and the Mac, I think, should be the same. The interface you will use for the Google App Engine should be the same. Roughly the same. It's a GUI. Okay. Okay, so this is the directory. We are starting from the Hello World directory. So the file you will need to edit is helloworld.py, right? So put it into your favorite editor. I run Emacs. I hope you can see. Let me see if I can increase the size. Okay. Give me a second. If I can increase the size, I think it should help. option. Does this work? Okay. Is this better? Hopefully you can see at the back. Maybe Korea's not the best. Anyway, I'll settle for this, okay? So your task is to change the message. Of course, trivial, right? You just edit the file. I forget what the message was, but let's just change it to, oh, I should run this first. Okay, I should run this first. Okay, so to run this, okay, you should have the Google App Engine. In Windows or in Mac, it will be a GUI. You want to open the new application. I think it's probably easier just to add from the plus at the bottom. Right. Choose the directory. Okay, we are here. For myself, is this particular directory, the Hello World directory. Choose it. Okay, and then create. Okay, so it's there. I select it, and then let me just run it. Okay, this is going to run it locally on your machine. Every time you do the run, you run locally on your machine. You can see the log of what it's doing. So this is the log. The log is useful. Now it'll give you error messages if you have error messages. Okay, and you can browse. This is doing it locally. When you finally want to put it to the server, you use deploy. Okay. When you want to put it to the real Google App Engine, you use deploy, but you do all your development locally, and then you just run it. Then you can look at it. You browse, you will see it, and there you go. Right. So you see, says Hello Web App World, and it's running locally. Localhost, the port 8080. Okay. It's running locally. You can see it. So the simple, right? It's up. If you want to, you deploy it, and then no, it's on. Yeah, live to the world, right? Deploy this, live to the world. Right? Anybody, anywhere can access it. But now, right now, it's running locally. Right. So let's just change the message that we were doing just now. Emacs. Let's say Orbital. Orbital world. Okay. I don't even have to, I could stop it and run it again, but App Engine is actually smart enough to realize that I have changed the file. So that's nice. So I just reload and it's changed. Okay. Right. The App Engine is smart enough that it knows when your files have changed, and if you just refresh your browser, you will see the new message. Okay. So let me give you probably a couple of minutes, 2 minutes to try this. Right. This is Hello World, just to get it up. You probably don't want to deploy this. Yes. Okay, error. Let me see. We have a few people walking around. I think they are probably better than me to walk around. Yeah, if you guys, the advisors, I can run around as well, but I probably don't want to do that with my microphone. So let me give you some time to get this, because if you are not able to get it up, then you won't be able to follow the next section of the exercise. right? But very simple, right? If you were to deploy this, okay, to deploy this, you will need to fill in a form from Google. But once you fill in the form, then you can deploy this, and you're live. Okay, let me repeat the instructions again in case you forget. Right, you just run it and then you browse. Right, browse will just bring it up on your web server. Oh, sorry, on your browser, web browser, whatever web browser you are using. Right, so if I don't want it anymore, I might stop it. Okay, then it's no longer active. Run it. Right, browse, it will come up. So that's right. So let me recap what's happening. Your web browser is sending a GET request to the root directory, right? And the web app tool is sort of directing it to this handler, main page. Anything sent to / which is the root directory, gets sent to this handler, main page. Main page inherits from web app tool. So from the inheritance, it gets methods, and some of the methods include the write method, right? Which you write out text. In this case, the content type is text. You write out to web app tool, or you write out whatever message you like. Okay, okay, can I see a show of hand? How many people have got that so I can move on? Oh, not? Okay. So maybe I'll give you a couple more minutes. This is the correct. I hope it's not installation problems. That can be a real pain, particularly if it's a Python version problem. Might be a pain. But if you have the installation right, I think this is easy. Should not be hard to get this up and running. Okay, let me show you the other file that's in the same directory. That's the configuration file. Okay, that essentially tells the App Engine the name of the application, right? You know, the sort of version, runtime. App Engine also runs, I think, Java, Go, might be PHP. Okay, Java, Go, PHP, and the one we are using is Python. API version. Okay, and right. So so that's the name of the app, Hello World. And the other thing that the configuration file actually needs to know is where to send the request and what's the file that would actually sort of serve the request. Okay, so in the configuration file, we will look more at the configuration file later. But here you will see that what it does is it says that all requests that send /dot start, which means any URL, are all going to be handled by this particular file, which is your hello world.py. For Python, is hello world.py file. Okay, so if you want a different file to handle the request, then you put in a different file name here, right? If you want to say orbital.py would handle the request for this Hello World app, then you put in orbital.py, and then you write your code in orbital.py. Okay, so that's this part. Hopefully, we will come back to the configuration file later on when we talk about login, about allowing whether you need somebody to log in or not log in. Right, so this app.yaml is configuration file is in the same directory as the Hello World directory. Okay, can I see a show of hand whether we can move on? Ready to move on? Put out your hand. Not so ready. Looks like we are not so ready to move on. So a couple more minutes. Okay, let me move on. If you are behind, I guess, keep trying and try to follow on at the same time. Okay, so let's move on. So writing out entire HTML file is a pain. You could do what we just did just now and use the write web to write method to write out HTML file, but that's a pain. So App Engine provides you with what's called templates, right? The one we will cover today is called Jinja 2, but there are other sorts of templating language that you can and you may want to use. Okay, but the one we'll look at today is Ginger 2. Okay, so it's a pain to use Web App 2 to write out a whole file. You could do it. You could do it. It's much nicer to separate them, right? So okay, when you do software engineering, you will learn to try to modularize things, right? Separate things out. So I want to separate out all my sort of display code into separate files and not add it into the Python file. Right? So the templates allow you to do that. Right? They allow you to separate out the file in the HTML file in a separate file. You just write the file separately. Don't mix it in with the Python file. Okay. So if you look at the directory, so we are moving out of the Hello World directory now. We'll move into the first, I guess it's the first exercise, first directory, right? And look at the front.py. That is the file that contains the handler for this particular section. Okay, the first directory. And look at front.py. You will see something like this. Okay. So this is essentially more or less the same thing as what you saw just now, but instead of writing out the HTML file, right, we are inside the Python file. We write a separate file, and then we use that, and we use Ginger 2 to serve this HTML file. Okay, so okay. So first you need to import Ginger 2. We have importing OS here to help get the path, but the main thing here is the Ginger 2, right? And you set up the Ginger 2 to tell it where the templates are. The template would be your HTML file. Right? Where the templates are in this case is in /template. So if you look at your directory, under the first directory, you will see a directory called templates. Right? Okay. So again, Web App 2 is going to ask anything, the main page class, to handle all requests to the root directory. Okay, so this is the handler. And this time, all the handler's going to do, right, is going to get the template. If you look inside the template directory, you will find a file called front.html. It's going to get this file, front.html, and then it will write out this file. Right? It will render it. Template is a Ginger 2 environment get template. Right? That's what template is, and it will just render it. Okay. So instead of writing out a whole lot of HTML text inside the Python file, you separate it. You put it. In this case, in our case, we put it in a directory called template, and we put it in a file called front.html. Okay, so now this is nice, right? Now you can write all your HTML display, your CSS will put in another directory later on, right? But all your display code separate, right? It's separate from your handlers, your Python file. Okay, so let's maybe okay, I'll look through one more slide, then we try to run this, okay? Okay, so if you look in front HTML, it is just a HTML file. It uses a style sheet from Twitter Bootstrap. I believe this morning you heard a little bit about Twitter Bootstrap. And next week, our first mission control session will cover Twitter Bootstrap. Okay, it's a nice set of CSS for displays, for sort of formatting displays. Okay, so it uses Twitter Bootstrap, and we also have our other style sheet in main CSS. So in the head of the HTML file, we say that the style sheets are here and here. Okay, these are the CSS files. Okay, so we'll try to run this, right? But while we are running this, you should also do an exercise. I think you have covered a little bit of CSS, right? So you know what CSS is. So I want you to change the size of the logo. Okay, I'll run this, show you, and then your job is to change the size of the logo. Right. So where are the files? The files are the CSS file is here. Okay, style sheet main.css. Right. We also use Bootstrap, but the other one we use is here. So look in the front directory, in the style sheet directory, there's a file called main.css. Look into the HTML code and figure out how to change the, what's the exercise I wanted you to do, right? How to change the size of the logo. Okay. So let me run this first so that you can see. Right, okay, so you should be looking in the first directory. Okay, then you have to tell, if you want to run this, you have to tell Google App Engine. Right, I have to look up first. Okay, so I want to run this, create. Okay, so first run it. Okay, and browse. And okay, this is what I have. Right, so this is what I showed you in PowerPoint just now, and this is in HTML. Okay, so your first exercise is to look inside this HTML file and the CSS file, which you covered this morning, and try to change the size of this logo. Okay, so where is that? That would be it. Okay, you can have a look at the HTML file. That's okay. Look at it on your own screen, right? You know, it sort of has the head that tells you where the style sheet. This tells you where the style sheet is. It's in the style sheet directory, main.css, and this is more or less the top bar. Now, somewhere it will tell you change the. Somewhere it will use the command from the style sheet and try to change the size of the logo. Okay. So where is the style sheet? That's up here. Okay, let me. Right. So hopefully it's obvious, right, where what it is that you need to change from the name I use. Right? Hopefully it's obvious what you should change to change things. Right? You wanted to change the logo, so look for, like, where do I use class? Class logo is here, so this is actually the logo. Hopefully it's obvious where you should change it. So I'll give you a few minutes just to run this. Let's go. This is more HTML CSS exercise, right, which you covered this morning. right? The main part involving, so let me repeat the, oops, sorry, wrong file. Right, the main part involving the app engine is actually, right, you're just doing exercise in using the HTML and CSS. The main part involving the app engine is, the app engine allows you to separate, right, by using the template, you can separate out your HTML type of text into a separate file and you can edit it there, okay, by using the Jinja 2 template, right? So when you write out, essentially so you just get the tell Jinja 2 what the template is, and then render it and then write it out. Okay, but you can, so this is nice, you can separate out where you write your HTML. Right, suppose I should just keep this up for a while and let you try do something. Hopefully you have enough HTML. You only learn a little bit, I know, but enough to just sort of roughly know what this is saying, right? So that you can roughly figure out what you need to change. Okay, I'm gonna move on, right? Anyway, if you probably change, let's try just changing something here. Let's change this to 150 and let's see what happens. So I should. Right, this one, I think. So if I reload it, right, see the logo's grown, although it's sort of eaten into the top bar, and you will need to fix that somehow, right? But you can play with this in the style sheet, okay, in the CSS style sheet. Play with it and see what happens. Okay, but you can control the looks using the style sheet and using the bootstrap. Okay, so let's move on. Can I move on? See a show of hand whether I can move on? Ready to move on? Yes, good. Okay. Not all I can see, but we do have only 2 hours, so let me move on. I want to talk a little bit about login because that also talks about the configuration file. Okay. So App Engine is quite nice because it provides you with Google login. If you want to use Google login, right? Anybody with a Google account will be able to log in into your app essentially for free, right? All you really need to do is to change the configuration file. Okay, so the configuration file, a reminder, if you look in the directory, we are using the front directory right now in the app.yaml directory. That will give you the configuration file, right? The things to look at, okay, let me look at the first one first. It tells the app engine where if the request comes for something slash style sheet, where should it look? Right, it should look in the directory style sheet. Right, this is where you specify where the app engine should look. For images, for example, if you want to put images in the directory images, and any URL that ends with slash images, it will look into the directory images. Okay, so you can tell the app engine, this is where I put my style sheets. This is in the directory style sheet, in the directory image. These are static directories. If I want my JavaScript, where do I want to put them? Let's say I want to put them in scripts. So you tell app engine is in the directory scripts. Okay, and Twitter Bootstrap is in the directory /bootstrap. If you look into your directory structure, you will see all the Bootstrap things in this directory /bootstrap. Okay, so that's probably the first thing. It tells the app engine, the configuration file tells the app engine where to look for things. Right. So the next thing is that we are using the Jinja2 library. Okay, you might use other libraries. You would specify here in the configuration file what libraries do you need. In our case, Jinja2. Okay, so Google gives you login for free. What you need to do is you need to specify login required. Okay, so here what I've done is I've said that for the directory the root directory, login is not required because I didn't specify login required. But for all other pages, right, which is this one /.star, all other pages, I'm going to require login. People who did not log in will not be able to access all these other pages. Right? When you build your app, you want to decide which one do I want everybody to see and which pages. Right? Or maybe all your pages you allow everybody to see, that's fine. Or if you want only certain pages for login people, what's provided by Google is, of course, only Google login. Right? If you want other sort of login, like with OpenID or with Facebook, then you build that yourself. Right? You replace certain routines yourself. Okay? What's provided is the Google login. Okay? So login is not required for the root directory. It's required for everything else. Right? That's it. And now you have login. Right? So that's simple. It's nice and simple to get Google login. Okay. One thing you should note is that the order is important. Don't put this before everything. This should be the last. If you are going to say all pages, it should be the last one, right? Because the application, the app engine is going to look from top down. Okay, so if you put this up somewhere here, it will not go down further. Okay, so this all other pages should appear last, right? Otherwise, you may be spending a lot of your time debugging, wondering why it doesn't work, because you told the app engine that, right, all other pages look in this particular place. Okay, so that's if you want to use different files. I guess you can use the same file, and that's fine. Then you all look in the same file, and you probably mostly don't have to use different files unless you have your app. I guess your app gets big and you want to separate out your modules and so on. You might want to use different files. Okay. Okay, so I think we should run. Okay, we should run this. Okay, the example here that you showed I showed you just now actually has a login button. Right, we will. If you look at the code, this is what it looks like. Okay, let's run it and see. Right, you can see if I click this, I am actually logged in. Okay, I should log out first and show you again. Right. because now once you are logged in, it doesn't ask you again. So this is again local to my machine, right? I am going from localhost to my machine. On my machine, when you put it on the server, it's slightly different, right? You get a different login screen from Google. This is just local, right? So I log in, and you can see that right now I'm logged in. I'll show you in a minute how we do this, right? How we tell who it is that is actually logged in. In this case, the person login is test example, right? I can change this, for example. Let me log in as test123. It will tell me that the person login is test123. Okay, so no, Google allows login, but the main part I wanted to show you is the configuration file. Right? If you look at this file, okay, the login should be somewhere here. Right? The login is here. Okay, so let me recap. Right? The main part I wanted to show you is just that you can get Google login, right? Just by specifying in your configuration file that login is required. Then Google App Engine automatically provides that for you. Okay. So it's simple to get Google login. If you want to provide other logins, then you do that yourself, right? You figure out how to do it yourself. Okay, so let me move on, and then I guess maybe then you'll do more exercises in a minute. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is that when we press login just now, your name shows up, right? Your in this case, what I put there is your email. The email address shows up. How do we do that? Okay, that's what. So we do that by passing a parameter to the templates. The template is a HTML file. It's one file, but every time you run it, a different person's name shows up, right? So it's one single file, but different person's name show up. So how does that work? It works like you have done functions, you give it parameters. So Ginger 2 allows you to pass parameters to it as well, right? So you can pass parameters to it, and it will generate the HTML file with the parameter, and then display that. Okay, so you want to pass parameters to the template. So we'll look at that now, right? Okay, so essentially we wanna answer, right, how do I get the email up there for every single user? It's a different HTML file that is served. Right? It's different in the sense that it's your name, your email. Okay, but there's only one HTML file, right? Or at least one template. So it's a template. You give it a parameter, and then it generates the file, generates the thing to show, to display. Okay, so this is what we are interested in. If you look at the, I should look this side. Okay, this is what's in the file, right? The part where we get users. Okay, so the other thing you need to get is you need to import users, right? Because that's the routines that Google App Engine provide to you to get the user details. Okay, so same thing as just now. Now I'm gonna say that if for the URL that ends in /giftbook, the handler is still called main page, right? And inside the main page, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the logins the current user, in this case, so that we know the email of the user. This is a routine provided because you imported users, the routine user. Okay, so the part where, okay, maybe let me go on. This is where the routine provided by the app engine is from users. Okay. Where you're going to pass the information to the template, right? The template is the Jinja 2 template. You are going to pass the information is by passing key value pairs. Okay, so first I'm going to get the user's information. This routine is provided from the module users. I will get the information, and then I'm going to put it inside sort of key value pairs from yesterday Python. This is what Python key value pairs look like, right? All of you should know more or less hash tables, key value pairs, right? This is the key, this is the value. So the thing that I want to show on the web page is actually the user's email. Okay, so this is the key. Whenever the template sees user email, it knows that it should be looking for the value which I get from the user. Users get current user email. Okay, so that's what I'm going to pass on to the template. Okay, and again, like what we did just now, we are going to get the template, and the template is called front user. If you look inside the file, it's called front user.html, and then I'm going to render the template. Okay, but this time, instead of just rendering it, I'm going to render it, and I'm going to pass template values to the template so that it takes in the user email and then it processes it, and then it creates a HTML file with your user email right up here. Okay, and that's it, right? So that's how you would pass. You only have a single file, but you can have many, depending on who is using it, you get a different email, right? By passing it, by first getting it from the Google login, and then putting it inside sort of key value pairs and give it to the template, and then you render it. Okay, then you generate a HTML file with your username. Okay, but that's only half the story, right? You also need to tell the app engine inside the front user.html file, where am I going to put this username, right? Where am I going to put username inside front user.html? Okay, it's only half, right? This is inside Python. You give it to Jinja 2, and then you also have to specify where is it that this appears. Okay, so that will be in front user.html, right? So if you look inside that file, I should go this way. Okay, if you look inside that file, this is specified. Remember, this is the key, right? Let me show you again what user mail is the key. When you see the key, what the Jinja 2 will do is it will substitute the email, the value. Okay. So if it sees the key here, so this is the top bar, which essentially is what will render as this top part. When it sees the key, then it will substitute it in with the email, and this is what will appear. Okay, so the other one is the logout button. Okay, which is also, okay, let me show you logout as well. I didn't highlight that just now, that's here. Right? So it creates a URL where you log out to. Okay, so right, so the key is passed to Jinja 2 template, and then it's converted to the value up here, and then it's rendered. Okay, so let's again do an exercise. Okay, so the exercise is to render this page, essentially. Okay, create the handler to render this page. Right, so if you look inside your directory, there is a file called wishlist.html, and it renders roughly like this. Right. So let me recap. What you need to do is, right. So we had a mapping from /gifbook to main page, which is not shown here. Right. Now we want to say that, you know, if the request comes in looking for /wishlist, this class is going to handle it. Right. Wishlist is going to handle it. And what wishlist will do is it will render out this page. Right. It will render out this page, and you're supposed to figure out how to do that the next 5 minutes. The hint is that just look at what else is there and copy. Okay, what else is in the file and copy. This is just an exercise for you to figure out where things are. Okay, you have rendered out. I have shown you how to render out the previous page. This one, where was it? Okay, this one. You have seen how to render out this one. Now you are supposed to render out this page. Okay, in the Python file. You can look at the file wishlist.html. Do I have that? Oh. I didn't have it. Okay, you're supposed to render out the file wishlist.html this time, instead of the file front.html, frontpage.html. Right. So complete the Python handler to render out wishlist.html. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes, then I will recap, and then we will look at it. Okay, so figure out what it is that I've been saying and try it out. Yeah, you're not doing anything complicated. You're just the file is already there. You're just rendering it. Okay. The file wishlist.html is already there in your directory. You are just supposed to complete the handler to render it out. Render out the file. It's inside the first folder. I heard that. Yes. Thank you. Right, don't get confused. You're just rendering out. The file is there. You're taking the file and then rendering it out. That's all. Right, the wishlist HTML is in the directory /template. If you look in the directory /template, you will see wishlist.html, and then you just want to render it out. Okay, and the way you render it out is by writing a handler, right? That tells the App Engine when a client requests for /wishlist, this is the handler that should handle it, and it's a get, right? When I get a get request for wishlist, then what I should do is I should render out this wishlist.html file. Okay, it's nothing complicated. Just look inside your Python file, cut and paste something into here. That's all. That's your job. It's just to get you familiar with this, right? Look inside the Python file, cut and paste something and put it here. And of course, you have to change it slightly. Right, let me recap. This is roughly what you need to do, right? You need to tell Jinja to render out this particular a particular file, not front user but wishlist.html. You will need to give it template value because that file also asks for the wishlist.html file also asks for the parameters. You also need to pass a parameter, so you also need to send the values over to the template. But roughly this is what you are writing. Okay, you are writing a handler similar to this for wishlist. Can't get it right. Wishlist.html. But it should look something like this. Okay, I will move on. Okay, let me show it to you, then we'll move on. Okay, first of all, if you look at the current file, if you click on wishlist, I did not have a handler, right? I don't have a handler, so let me build the handler. It should be right, front.py. Oh, did I give you the wrong? Did I tell you we are supposed to be working from giftbook? I probably did not. You're supposed to. I think you're supposed to be working from giftbook. Sorry, but anyway, you might have had some difficulty. Is okay. I think I messed up. I think you're supposed to work from giftbook. Okay. Anyway, if you work, you are supposed to work from front. This is a bit too complicated. Okay, you're probably supposed to work from front. Do I have that? You're probably supposed to work still from. Sorry, I've confused myself. I think you're still supposed to work from. Still supposed to work. Oh, sorry. The same directory, but this file. Sorry, you're supposed to work from this file. Now I got it. Okay, so all I really needed to do was to cut and paste this guy. Oh, I guess first I should show you. This is probably right. Okay. Okay. Cut and paste here. Uncomment this, and I change the file name to. I think that should do the trick. Let's have a look. Did I run the right? First, have I confused myself by running the wrong thing? You put front. Wish list. This should be right. Wish list. Okay, I know what I did. No, I did not. Did I do it? Wish list.html. Let me change. Sorry, wrong. Should be fine. So if I log in, oh, okay. Okay, so if you have trouble, one place to look is at the log, right? That will tell you where your trouble is. It seems I have indentation problems. Okay. So that's something you want to watch out for in Python. So I have indentation problem here. is this guy, I think. When I commented it out, I did not indent it properly. Okay, so in Python, indentation is important. It doesn't work properly if you don't indent it properly. And if you have difficulty, look at the log. That will tell you where the bugs are. Hopefully, let's try again. Okay, let's try again. Okay, there you go. Okay, so I had difficulty just now because when I uncommented this part, I did not indent it properly, and Python uses indentation for the specified blocks. It doesn't have all these open and close curly brackets, right? It uses indentation. So that's why it wasn't working, and one place to look when it's not working is to look at the log, okay? Anyway, that delayed me 5 minutes, but let's move on. Okay, so let me summarize this part. What we have looked at is templates, right? The template allows you to separate your HTML file into a separate file that allows you to edit things nicely and easily. Okay, and we look at login, which provides you with Google login. And we look at how we can pass key value pairs to the Jinja 2 template, so that you can have different things from the same essentially template or template file. Okay, so that's what we looked at. Okay, next thing is we want to create a form. Okay, so now we want to get information from the user by using forms. Okay, so this is what we just rendered, the form. Okay, so in the HTML file, you will see this. Right, it's a form, and it's a post method to which, okay, you should be working, okay, for this section, you should be working from the giftbook directory. I think we have moved out of the first directory into the giftbook directory. Okay, so you will see the form, right, which is gonna say that it's gonna use the post method for when you're using wish list. Okay, so now we need to write a handler for the post method. Okay, so this morning you have covered forms, right? So form is how you get information from the user. In forms, you can either use the get method or the post method. Usually when you want to get a lot of information, you use the post method. Okay, so when you use a post method, then you need to get, you want to write a handler for the post method. We have been writing handlers for the get methods. Okay, so now we want to write handlers for the post method. Okay, so this is what the form looks like, right? We ask for some information from the user. Okay, so you will find that in the, okay, we are now in the giftbook directory. You will find that I have two handlers for wish list now. One handler for the get method and one handler for the post method. Okay, so right, when the URL says /wishlist, this is the handler that handles it. But the handler handles both types of methods. It handles get method, like which you earlier did. What you did was you just display the form, right? When the get method, when you get a get request, you display the form. You just wrote that. I just went through writing that with, right, fixing the indentation problem, and then we just displayed that. That handled the get method. Okay. So now we want to get data from the form. Okay, and we are going to use the post method. Essentially, what we are going to do, so this would handle the post request, right? I'm going to talk about the data store next, but essentially what we are going to do is we are going to get this information from the form, right, which in this case is the item URL. The name of this, what we are going to get is called item URL, and inside the post method, I'm going to get this item URL and then put it in this object in the data store, which I will describe later. Okay, so nothing very different since this is a post request. So in HTML, you have the get request, which you use to usually get web pages. You also use it to handle some forms, the simpler forms, right? But for the more complicated forms, usually you would use a post request. Right. So now we need to handle the post request inside the handler. And what we do here is we want to get the data from the form and put it into the data store object. Okay, so that's what the post request does. Essentially, you need to write a handler to handle the post request. Okay, hopefully. Right, we need to write a handler to handle the get request. Now if we have a post request for the form, we also need to write a handler to handle the post request. In this particular case, what the handler is going to do is it's going to get the information from the form. Okay, good. Okay, so let me now talk about the data model. Right, essentially the database that Google App Engine provides. You can now, if you are doing other things, you might be using SQL, other sorts of databases. Google App Engine provides, I guess, probably relatively simple data store. It's an object-oriented sort of data store. If you are somewhat familiar with objects, hopefully this is not too complicated. Right? Essentially, you create objects, and the fields inside the objects are essentially the fields of the data for the object. Okay, so that's the data store. Okay, so the next section, what we are going to do is we are going to essentially we are going to get data from the forms, which you put in the data, and then we are going to display it. Okay, we are going to write to the database, and then we are going to read from the database, and then display the items. Okay, so first we need to talk about the data store, what the App Engine data store looks like. Right. So essentially, what we are going to do is we are going to read the form, insert the data into the data store, and then read from the data store, and then display it here. Okay, so we are working from the giftbook directory. We are heading towards the last section. Okay, we are working from the giftbook directory. Okay, the data model, hopefully it's not too complicated. All of you have done object-oriented programming. So this is essentially is an object data store. It's not relational database. If you have done any sort of relational database, it's a little bit different, but hopefully not that different as well. Okay, so the App Engine provides essentially a hierarchical data model. Okay, so what you do is you would define it as a class. It's an object. Okay, you would define it in a class. So in this application, I will have two classes. One is a class of person, and then one is a class of items. Right? Person is the user, and then items are the things, the wish list, right? The things that the person wants. Okay, so I would create a class called persons, right? And the key of the person, the key describes the person, is a unique identifier for the person. I'm going to use the email of the person to uniquely identify the person. Okay, and I have a label for the item as well, which I think for now let's ignore this. Essentially, right, for the data store, I need to create an object, right, and the object we create is a person. And remember that no, it's an object-oriented language. It inherits. I don't need to do anything else because there is a class defined by Google App Engine, which is the ndb.model. I inherit everything from ndb.model. Okay, so they have done define all the classes, so that all you need to do is you inherit from it, and then you add your own fields. In this case, now we add a key, which is the person's email, and then we add like the ID of the next item. Okay, and then this is to store the person, and then I also want to store the items that the person wants, right? So I want to store the item ID. I want to store the links. So I want to store two things. I want to store the links of the web page that describes the item, and I want to store the image of the item. Okay, so I have two fields here, item link and image link, and I want to store a short description of the item. Okay, and you can define the types for it. You will have to look at the documentation, but among the types are integer, string, text. They have different properties. Okay, so they are typed. So you define the fields and you define the type. There's also a date time type. Okay, so that's all you need to do to define essentially your data store items. Right. Hopefully not too complicated since you are familiar with object-oriented programming, right? All we have done is we have inherited a class that App Engine has defined, and then we have added some fields, and we have defined the types of the fields. Okay, integers, strings, and text, and date and time. Right. So the other thing you should be aware of is that the App Engine's data store is a hierarchical model. Right. That means you define a person, and often you don't have to, but you can. Right? You can define the item as a child of the person. We are going to do that because we are going to say that, oh, this item belongs to this person, right? So we are going to define this as a child, right? So we are going to say this item is a child of this person. This person, the key is my email, right? And then the children are all the different things that I want, right? So each one of this item would have its own link, item link, with the page that describes the item, and image link, the image that describes the item, and then a short description, and then the date. Okay, and I will have this person will have many children. Each of the child is an item that the person wants. Okay, so it's a hierarchical data store. And one way we can use this, at least in this particular application, we are using the parent-child relationship to say that this item belongs to this person. Okay, so conceptually, that's it, right. When you need to program, of course, you need to work out all the syntax in a little bit more detail. You can look at the example. Right, so let's look at the example now, the code for actually inserting the data into the data store. Okay, so we are going to get the data from the form. Right, the user enters the data, we grab it, and then we are going to put it in the data store, and then we are going to retrieve other things and then display. Okay, so we are going to insert data. Okay, remember we had a form, right? And to get the data for the form, we have to handle the post request, right? So I have to handle the post from the form. Okay, so the first thing I want to do here, right, is I want to find the current user. Okay, remember the user has logged in because Google has provided us with the login routine. The user has logged in. I have the user's email. Now I want to retrieve the person from the data store, right? So to retrieve the person from the data store, I need to construct the key, right? I can't just retrieve anything, right? I need to say retrieve the person with this email, right? So that's what the key is. So that's the parent. The parent is the I'm gonna construct the key this way, right? Look at the class called person, and then this is the key for the person, and then get the person. Okay, parent.get means get it from the data store. Get the person from the data store. Of course, I have to do things like if the person doesn't exist, I have to create the person, and then I have to give it initialize the number of items and so on. Right. So if the person does get the person from the data store, so create the key. Say the person's identified by the email. Get it from the data store. If the person doesn't exist, create the person. Okay. So once I have the person, now I want to create an item. Right? I'm going to get the item from the form, from the user. So I'm going to create an item. You are familiar with the syntax, right? Normally, I create a new item by calling the constructor, essentially. Right? Item equals items. Okay, so this is where I put the key in. Right? The identifier for the item is the key of the item. In this case, is the number. Right, the item number, that's the key. So that's how I create. Okay, when I created the person, I also created the key, which is the email. Okay, the person is created with this key, the email. So that person is identified by the key, identified by the email. And the item is identified by the next item number, because I want to know how many items the person has. Right, so the key is this, but the other thing to note is the parent. The parent is this guy. Okay, I've created the parent, which is this key. So when I created the item, I created it with two things. I created it with a parent, and I created it with an identifier for the item. Okay, so once I have created it, then I can give values to the fields. Right, remember our fields are the item ID, item link, the image link, and the description. And where do I get this information? I get it from the form. The user has filled in the form, and this handles the post from the form, right? So I'm going to get it by using the get request to get the item URL, the image URL, and the description from the HTML form. Okay, so this is where we connect the form in the HTML and get the information from the post request, and then we created the item in the data store, and then we put give values to the fields of the objects. And finally, we do a put. A put puts it into the data store. That's it. Okay? We get the person, create an item, sort of populate the fields of the item, right? And then we put the item. Of course, we have cases where the first time the person log in, we have to create the person and so on, right? And if there are any problems, you may not want to put the objects, but essentially that's it, right? You get the person from the data store, you create a new item for the person, you get the information from the form, and then you put it into the data store. That's it. Okay, so that's how you get information from the form, create a data store object, puts it there, and then put it into the data store. Okay, this is probably a lot to sort of get in for now, but this sort of file, you have this file, this can be your template for you to experiment with as you build your own app. Okay, so the other thing we want to do is we want to get information from the data store, right, and then display it. That's the last part here, which I will show you next. Okay. Oh, okay, so I should have gone through. Let me go through this. Okay, so I constructed the key, right? I get the person from the data store. If the person doesn't exist, I create the new person with the email as the key. Right, so the key identifies the person. Okay, I initialize how many items the person has or what the next item is. Then I create a new item and then I link it to the parent, right? See, this is parent. I link it to the parent. So this item belongs to this particular person now because it's a child of the parent. And then I get information from the form, the item URL, the image URL, the description was from the HTML form. And finally, I insert the item. Okay, so that's all this particular part does. Okay, right, and I'm gonna display the page after I store the item. Okay, I insert the item and I insert the person, and then I will show the page. Okay, I'll show you what show the page looks like next. Okay, now we are going to retrieve the item from the data store and show it down here. Okay, we have handled the insert. The user put in information here. Click submit. It goes to the handler I showed you just now, which created the item or created the person if required. Right? Get the information from this, puts it into the database, and the next part it does is it retrieves all the items that the person already have in the database, data store, and then displays that. Okay, we'll go through that part now. Okay, so this is the routine show, which I called at the very end. It's just another function. I wrote it separately. You could have written it there and then, but I wrote it as another function, show. So what show does is first it gets the user, then it gets the key, the same thing we did just now. Okay, then it does. Okay, you can write this in various ways. Google provides a language called GQL that allows you to query the database. You can write this in various ways. You can look at the documentation. If you like to write it using GQL, is essentially maybe more intuitive. It has statements like select everything from items where ancestors the parent, remember, right? So this particular query says get me everything from items. Right? Items is our class of all the description of the items. All the items whose parent is this particular parameter, which is the parent key. What is parent key? Parent key is up here. Okay. Parent key is the person identified by the email. So I've got the parent, the key, and then I'm going to retrieve all items which belongs to this parent, which belongs to this parent key, whose ancestor are the parents, right? I'm going to order it by date, or right, if I want to. If you want to, you can order it by date or whatever way you want to do it. Okay, then essentially that's it. I have made my database query. Now I want to display it. So if you recall back about half an hour ago, how do we send values to the form, to the template? We do it by sending key value pairs, and what I've got here is query. Okay, right? I've got the query, I've got all the information, and I'm going to send it to Jinja 2. So I'm going to call the key is items, and the value is query, is the things that I got from here. Give it to Jinja 2. And then of course I'm going to I'm going to render the template. Okay, so we are almost done. Actually, we are almost out of time. Only I think about one more thing. So let me run through it. Okay, right. I'm going to add the key value pair, and then I'm going to use the template to display it. Right, then we are more or less done after that. Okay. Maybe I should not go through this. I think I'll skip this, but you might. Okay, maybe you can ask on Piazza if you run into funny behavior. maybe I'll show this funny behavior in a minute, okay? If you run into funny behavior because of the data store, you can ask in PSI. I'll show you the funny behavior, but I won't go through it, okay? Okay, I'll show you the behavior. Okay, so let's run what we have done so far. I'm gonna use gift book. Right, I can run it and you can see what it does. Let's show it. Okay, I can log in and can look at all this empty. So empty is not nice. So let me put something inside. Let me grab something. Let me grab this book. I'll put it in. I'm gonna. Oops. Okay, so what we have done just now is we have grabbed the information from the form and we have put it into the data store and we have read it from the data store. Okay. Okay. The behavior I wanted to show you. Sorry, wrong. Should be from here. Okay, if I did not make an ancestor query, if I did not query from probably should not. Let me just comment it out. Right, if I did not make an ancestor query, it's one of this, I guess it's a property of the Google App Engine data store. Where okay, so let me again put in the information. Is this the right? No, this one. Okay. Let me put in the information. Okay, now if I click submit, just now when I click submit, it appeared immediately. This one appeared immediately, right? But I changed the query. Now I no longer have the ancestor query. The App Engine has funny behavior. I click submit and it didn't turn up. Nothing turned up. Okay, let me, I guess, refresh it in some ways. Now you see it turn up. Okay, so this is a trade-off that the App Engine does. It's not consistent. It's a distributed system. The updates don't happen immediately. If you make a request immediately, the data store may not have been updated. Okay, it takes a while, and When I refresh it again, it shows up. Okay, so this is behavior of the App Engine, which they also provided you with a way to force it to be consistent, and that's by making ancestor queries. If you make queries with ancestor, all the children of the ancestor is forced to be consistent first before the query is returned. Okay, so it's a little thing that you might, if you don't do it right, you might spend a lot of time debugging. So I thought I'll let you know. Okay, you might find it strange. Why is it that right? I click, and then it doesn't turn up. I have to wait a while before it turns up, because it's a property of the App Engine. Okay. So, but if I make an ancestor query like this, right, then it's fine. Then it will force it to be consistent first. The data store will all be up to date before it returns the query to you. Okay, so that's a little quirk. It's a trade-off. Why do you think they did this? So a little bit of technical question. Why do you think they do that? Why not they force everything to be consistent? Right? Why not they force every query, when you ask the query, everything's updated and nice before they return the result to you? Caching, somewhat related. It's a performance issue, right? Not every application needs this. So if they want to force every application to have this, then you have a performance penalty. So it's up to you to decide, because they need to scale this. This is a global thing, right? Everybody who creates something is going to use this. So it's up to you to decide whether you need it. If you need it, then you need to make an ancestor query. And that can be slower. Okay, it's a performance issue. Okay, I just wanted to tell you so that you are not stuck wondering why it behaves in a funny way. Okay, let me go through the last part because I'm running out of time. The last part is to do loops and conditionals inside the template, right? Just now what we have done is I've shown you how to pass information to the template, right? But you can do more inside the template. You can do loops, right? For loops. And you can do conditionals, you can do if statements in the template. Okay, and we use it here. What I have here to generate all the items is I use a loop, right? So you can use a loop to generate all the items down here. Okay, so this is what the loop looks like. I can have a for loop, right? I guess you will look at the syntax yourself, but I want to tell you that they exist, right? That you can do loops. You can do for items in items. Items is what's passed through from the form. From the handler, right? Items. So I'm going to pick out all the item, and then I'm going to print out the item description. Okay, this is inside a table. Let me show you. Right, I've created a table down here, so that's created this way. It's a table, and then I'm going to create each row of the table using a for loop. So inside this for loop, I'm going to print out the description, and then I'm going to print out the link, and then I'm going to print out the image. And that's what you see here, right? So, okay, I've used a table, and I have a for loop. And I have the description of the item passed from the handler. And I have an if statement. So you can do if statements, you can do for loop inside the Jinja 2. Okay, that's it. And I have more or less run out of time. There is one exercise which is for you to complete this very last thing. So, should I terminate? I think yeah. So I think I'll leave you to do this exercise yourself, right? You have my slides, you have all the things. So let's finish off here. long and tiring. Okay, the next section I hope will be energetic, right? You guys will come and perform and do song and dance for everybody. Okay, the next section is where you do your 1 minute pitch. So let me wrap up. Okay, so you can do this on your own to finish off this particular app. Right, it has one more section, which is a search for somebody else's email, right? And then you can display this, right? So roughly this is what it looks like, and you're supposed to finish it off. Okay, you're supposed to finish off, and let me show you the app, and then you can go and finish it off yourself. Oh, okay, finally you have to upload the app. I didn't show you how to upload the app. You should go look at the documentation. You need to fill in the form so that Google knows about the app. Okay, you upload the app, you register the app, and that's it. Okay, so the second part, what we have done is we have looked at the data store model, look at how to insert and how to retrieve items, and then we have looked at loops and conditionals. Okay, so that's it. Now you can create a basic app inside the, using Google App Engine, and you have an example to build it from. Right, so you have the file, you have an example to build it from. You can modify and create your own thing and put it online, and it will be there for the world to see. Okay, so you have seen the app. Let me show you. I've also put in a slightly fancier version. Let me show you the slightly fancier version now. Okay, so this slightly fancier version. Okay, never mind. How do I get? Okay, let me finish off. I'm done, but I'll just show you the fancier version of the app, which is also included in the file, in the zip file. Okay, and we are done. Okay, if you want to look at the code of the fancier version, is inside your file. Okay, I've logged in. What's a little bit fancier here is I have also created this thing that you often see, right? Like users with item in your wish list are also interested, like other users also put these things in their wish list, right? So these are all the other things that when you go to Amazon, you might see something like this, like users who bought this item also bought this other item. So I've created a fancier thing that includes this. You can look at it if you want in your code. Okay, in the code's there, but right. But otherwise, it's essentially the same thing. Okay, you can have a look at it. Is gift book recommendation, giftbook.appspot.com. Okay, to look at this slightly fancier version of the same app. Right, but otherwise what the app does is it allows you to insert things, it allows you to search for things. I think I have, oops. I created another user to test this so I could get what the other user wants. Okay, the code is all in the file. If you want to go to the live system, you can as well. Right? It's online as well. Okay, so I will leave the last exercise for you to do on your own since we have run out of time. Okay, and yeah, I don't think I'll ask for questions. You can ask online on Piazza. Okay, so I'm done for this session. What's next, Min? Okay, let me stop the recording.